Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Loudon County Leadership Hall of Fame event. For those of you who may not know, I am a college football television commentator, Dr. Jerry Punch, and it is my pleasure to host this segment of your program. Now, the Loudon County Leadership Hall of Fame supports the work and mission of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Loudon County. The Loudon County Clubs serve over 300 kids each year with tutoring and reading programs, as well as hot meals and snacks, and an opportunity to serve and give back to their communities. They do so much for the youngsters, young boys and girls there. Now, due to COVID-19, we were not able to host this event in person, but we are thrilled to be joined by our guest speaker, legendary Tennessee national championship winning quarterback and current volunteer assistant head coach, passing game coordinator, and wide receiver coach T. Martin. And Coach, thanks for taking your valuable time to be with us for this special event.
Dr. Punch, thank you. And it is my honor to be involved in this event. Being a club member myself, I joined the boys club at that time. It's not a boys and girls club, but during that time it was boys club. I joined when I was 8 years old, and I was a member up until high school. So anytime the Boys and Girls Club needs me, I'm here, and I really appreciate you guys having me.
Well, it's interesting, but I want to get into your growing up in Mobile and your involvement with the club. But I just want to do first things first. People seeing you here back, last January 2019, the Vol Nation was ecstatic when they found out that you'd be returning to Rocky Top as a member of Jeremy Pruitt's staff. What's it been like for you to come back, come home to Knoxville?
It's been fantastic. When you leave as a 21-year-old young man and you're like, I'm gone, I'm done with college. You don't know if you're going to come back or not. And my life took me to so many places, whether it was the NFL or Canadian Football League, playing the NFL Europe. I just didn't know if I had an opportunity. And once I got into coaching, the ultimate goal then is to get back to your alma mater. And I was blessed to have an opportunity come before. Just didn't feel like it was the right time. But when Coach Fulmer became the athletic director and hired Jeremy Pruitt, I have a lot of respect for both men. And then the opportunity came where I could be a part of a turnaround, being a part of getting things back to how I knew it, and for the young men to have the experience that I had here at Tennessee. That's the main motivation, and my family was all about it, and it's been great for not only myself but for my family as well.
Well, you got the best of both worlds. You got a head coach to work with in Jeremy Pruitt, and you got then an athletic director who was a championship winning head coach who coached you. And so, I mean, you talk about the ingredients to bring this program back to where it was. You've got them all in place, so we're thrilled to have you back there. Now, let me turn back the clock a little bit. You mentioned before you grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and you remember what was called the Boys Club. That's what it was called back then. And how about sharing some of your experiences at that club and the importance of that club in your life as a youngster?
The boys club was so special to me, and to the point of I can almost remember just about every campaign we had. We had this blue bus that on the side of it had the Optimist Boys Club, the club that beats the streets. And we had that blue bus until the wheels fell off that thing. And but that's where I started playing baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport. I don't know if people know that or not, but having my middle son play baseball, it actually makes me happier than anything. But because I thought I was going to be a baseball player. Larry Dickens was the club director at the time at the Optimist Boys Club on Michigan Avenue in Mobile, Alabama. And Larry Dickens was just graduating from college as a baseball player. And every day at noon, we had assembly. So you could be outside, you could be in the arts and craft room, you could be doing whatever. But you knew at noon, before you ate lunch, you had to sit in the bleachers and Larry would just talk to us. And for us being in a community that had so much going on and all the negatives that you all read about and know about that happens in the inner city, to just have a strong African American male figure in front of us every day. For some of us, we didn't have dads in the house. Some of us did. But to that consistency of knowing that at noon we're going to talk with Larry, he's going to inspire us and motivate us. That was huge. And playing pitching machine, baseball all the way up to player pitch baseball. Then started off football at the boys club. Really didn't know what position I was going to play. My dad played quarterback and wide receiver, and I was just trying to emulate him. So I kind of played a little bit of both. But my first game getting hit hard was in a boys club uniform. And arts and craft. I'm very much so into the arts and writing poetry and things of that nature. And when you're young, you get teased a little bit for kind of being a little different than the other guys, right? But I had a teacher who she just handled me so well and really pushed me to let that part of my personality and my spirit grow. And so we did a lot of different projects that still to this day my grandmother has in her living room of things that I actually made in arts and crafts at the boys club. And so it meant so much to me. I had a friend that lived in the same neighborhood as I did. I think he got like $5 or something for everybody he got to join. But that $5 investment right there really saved a life, because I really feel that if I didn't have that influence that as a youth, you're talking 7, 8 years old, if I didn't have those early positive influences in my life, I don't know what influences would have taken the place of those influences. And most of the time, with the environment that I was growing up in, it could have gone negative in a hurry. And so I'm forever grateful and thankful that I had an experience like growing up in the boys club.
Wow. How about you young people who are watching this, and you special guests? I know many of you who have cheered for T over the years, and a national championship winning quarterback, and yet he tells us that he loved baseball. Baseball might have been his best sport, given that, and he liked to arts and crafts. He liked to write poetry, and so you know what? Going to the Boys and Girls Clubs, you can do whatever you want to be. They'll let you be what you want to be and do what you want to do. And T. Martin is a primary example. Now, speaking of that mentorship that you got, talking about those luncheon, those noon meetings. After graduating from Williamson High School, you came to Tennessee, and during your freshman and sophomore years, T, you served as a backup quarterback to some guy named Peyton Manning. Now, in hindsight, no one ever wants to play second fiddle. You come in, you want to be a starter, but this guy was pretty special. So, how would you describe that experience and what you learned from playing behind and watching Peyton?
Right. I tried to learn as all I could. And Peyton was great to me, here as a teammate. He was a couple years older than me. My freshman year, I didn't know if he would be here for one more season or 2 seasons, which he decided to come back for his senior year. So I was trying to learn as much as I could, because I knew if he left after my freshman year, I would be in competition for the job. And certainly after my sophomore year, I would have an opportunity to actually be the guy. And when you play in front of 100+ thousand, when you play in front of millions on national television, the worst thing you can be is not prepared. And so you put all your ego to the side, you put all that to the side, and you just focus on what can I do to get better. And one of the best things I've learned from Peyton was the way that he approached his preparation. I came from a high school where we were super, super talented. I was a quarterback. I called my own plays for 3 years of high school. And one of the reasons why I came to Tennessee was because David Cutcliffe allowed the quarterback to do a lot of operating at the line of scrimmage, whether it was protections, whether it was audibles, and to see a young man like myself and Peyton actually go out there and do it, it was pretty fascinating. And so I learned a lot. And when it was my time to step in, it was all about bringing the team together. It was, we lost not only Peyton Manning, but we lost Leonard Little, we lost Marcus Nash, we lost a lot of great football players and a lot of production on offense. And you had a young Jamal Lewis coming back, and we really knew we were talented because every day at practice we went against the starters, and we would give them some heck now. And so we knew we were good, but it just wasn't battle tested. And we had 13 games to go out and be tested. And fortunately, we won all of them and came back home with a national championship.
Yeah, that next year you're talking about was the magical year. You were a junior, you became a starter, led Tennessee to an undefeated 13-0 season, the Fiesta Bowl victory over Florida State. As you look at that year, and I know you probably answered this question many times, what's your favorite memory or moment from that 13-0 season?
Wow, it's so many. I'll tell you, other than standing on stage and receiving a trophy and then just the ultimate ending to a perfect season. Right. So that in and of itself is a total moment. Right. But when you're going through the process of it, you kind of just plugged in, but just vivid memories of just how hard we worked, and nothing worth anything doesn't come without hard work. And you hear it from coaches all the time. You hear it from your parents all the time. But when you ultimately stand on that stage saying, man, do you remember how many sprints we ran in July? Do you remember all of those 6 a.m. workouts we had to get? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And I remember going into the Syracuse game, and before we got on the flight, we had a quick practice before we got on the flight. And we practiced so bad. I mean, it was awful. I couldn't hit the side of a barn. We didn't block anybody. Defense was stopping us. I mean, we looked awful. Like we were gonna get blown out. And Coach Cutcliffe lost his mind. I mean, he brought the offense up in the team room and just ripped us a new one. And we had to decide. We had to decide if we were going to listen and trust our coaches, or kind of do our own thing and not be, worth what we could be worth as a team. And we kind of came together, and it wasn't a pretty game. I know I particularly didn't play well in the first half, and the second half kind of got it together. But it was because I felt we practiced so hard, and that moment of deciding buy into your coaching staff and do what they ask you to do, or go away from it. We had to decide at that moment, and I'm glad we did, because it was what we needed to do as a team to get the most out of what we had.
You know, like that practice you just mentioned, I remember a game against South Carolina where you couldn't miss. I mean, you broke an NCAA record for consecutive completions. Folks, you may not know, but T completed the first 23 passes that day, and coupled with the last completion the week before against Alabama, that gave him 24 in a row for a 95.8% completion record, which was an NCAA record. Incredible. T, what do you remember most about that South Carolina game?
I just remember going into the game, Jamal Lewis had been hurt with a torn ACL, and we got challenged at practice by Coach Fulmer and Coach Cutcliffe that someone else had to step up. Jamal at that time was the leader of our offense. He was the best player at that time. We handed the ball to him and let him do what he did best, and he was phenomenal. But he went down, so we had to be more balanced as an offense. We had to rely more on the passing game. And I just remember feeling challenged going into that week. I was almost like a chip on my shoulder, kind of.
Yeah.
But it was that focus I needed going into that game. But as you said, not only was I clicking, but everybody on offense was. I didn't get sacked. I only got hit maybe twice. All right, the run game was going great, and for me to throw it, the wideouts had to catch them. And so I didn't know what was taking place until I threw the first incompletion and the crowd cheered. And we're on the road in South Carolina. I'm like, what is the big deal here? And I get to the sideline, and my mom was on the sideline. And I'm like, really, what's going on? And they made an announcement and gave me the ball and all that stuff. So that was a pretty cool moment right there.
Yeah, not just an SEC record, but folks, but an NCAA national college football record set that day. T, your accuracy was amazing. Now, I mentioned you have a young son, Caden, who was already a highly recruited rising star high school quarterback. Now, when you coach him or other young quarterbacks, and I know you've been around a lot of quarterbacks, you coach clinics, et cetera. What do you tell these young folks that's the key to being accurate and consistent in the passing game, like you were that day at South Carolina?
Right. I remember just going back to when I first started training Cam Newton, when Cam was in the 8th grade, 9th grade, and going back when I was in Atlanta training quarterbacks. I talked to them about the consistency of repetition. And if you want to be good at anything, you have to do it a lot, and you have to do it correctly a lot. Right. And so consistency of repetition. And when I talk to my kids about being great at anything, and players that we coach. Now I'm coaching wide receivers, but wide receiver, quarterback is all relative. Is to make sure that it's not how many times you do it; it's how many times you do it the right way, and on a consistent basis. Like investing, right? You just continue to have the discipline to do it on a consistent basis. And so that's the very simple message is if you have to tweak the way you hold the ball, the way you follow through, the way you step into the throws, the way you finish, if you can consistently do it, and all of the golfers out there, I'm actually getting my tail handed to me in golf right now, and it's like it ain't how strong you are, man. It's about how consistent you can be on your
Right, right.
swing. And so it's kind of the same thing. Is I just talk about doing it over and over again the right way.
I think I read a book, some quotes from Vince Lombardi, and he talks about that. He talks about that in order to be good, when he took over the Green Bay Packers, it had to be a constant daily pursuit of perfection. And then he said, no one's going to be perfect, but if we pursue perfection, we will find excellence.
Oh,
And
yeah.
excellence is what will allow us to be great. So I totally agree with you. T. After you played college, and then you went on and we mentioned a stint in the NFL. And by the way, folks, he was selected before Tom Brady was selected in the 2000 NFL draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They took you before Tom Brady. So Tom Brady did okay, by the way.
Yeah.
Then you played in the Canadian Football League. But I think the best thing that happened to college football and these young people was you got into coaching. It seems to you really thrived as a coach, as a teacher, a mentor. What is it about coaching that you enjoy so much?
Oh wow. I'll just go back to my playing career and how it affected me to be where I am today as a coach. So you get to the heightest of your height for me in college, and it was winning that championship. And then our senior year, we were very close again. And then being a projected first round pick, but then being drafted in the fifth round. So right off the bat, when I left college at 21 years old, adversity struck right off the bat. And you have all these dreams and aspirations, and you start doubting yourself, like, what else could I do? I won more games and did this, did that, can run, can throw, smart, all these things. And you're like, what's the reason? And so I didn't have the pro career that I wanted to have as a player. But the blessing in it all was I got an opportunity to play for Kelvin Gilbride with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Mularkey, Bill Cowher, Andy Reid, Mark Trestman, Bill Callahan, all of these outstanding football minds. And so at some point, I can't remember if it was my second year or third year in the NFL, I soon realized you're probably not going to play a whole lot because the guys ahead of you are making a whole lot more money than you, and they're not going to play you over those guys. And I started peeking at coaching. I started really paying more attention to the details and how plays were put together and why we were doing what we were doing. And that kind of gave me an idea about when I'm done, finally, I want to coach. And that's really how it happened, Doc. I was on a football field in Atlanta at Morehouse College, exercising myself. And the head coach just so happened to be walking around. He goes, "Hey, you T Martin?" Like, yeah. He goes, "Hey, man, would you work with my quarterback?" And I'm like, "Sure, he can join." So it started off me just helping with the kid.
Oh,
And
really?
it led to me coming every day. And he said, "Hey, I have a spot. You want to coach?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I never got a call again from an NFL team to come back and play. And it just led to the next thing and so on and so forth. And that's really how I got into it. And so my spirit in coaching is about teaching, and it's about seeing young men use a platform like football and an opportunity like having college paid for on a scholarship to help further their lives. And whether it's to the National Football League or just getting their degree, showing them about networking and what matters about the business world, that's why I do it. It's a teaching platform and a servant platform for me, for the young men that I'm either recruiting and they come, or I'm recruiting and they don't come. One of the strongest relationships I have with a player that didn't play for me was with Jalen Ramsey. He didn't play for me, but I recruited him and stayed in his life, after he went to Florida State. And so that's why I'm here to do it. When this game gets more than that for me, then it's time for me to get out of it. But that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, that mentorship you got when you were back at the boys club in Mobile, you continue to pay it forward. We talk about coaching, especially in the SEC. Coaching is a 24/7 job. You are so busy, and you're known for being an outstanding coach, but you're also known for being a great dad. And you all of your kids are good athletes. and to no one's surprise. You've got a son, Amari, who was a standout wide receiver at Clemson. You got another son I mentioned, Caden, is a talented quarterback at Knoxville Catholic High School. How do you balance all of that? I mean, how often do you get a chance to be a part of what they're doing and see those guys play?
Is what I signed up for, you know. And I grew up. My dad wasn't very consistent in my life. Like I knew who he was. I looked up to him. You know, he had an opportunity to play for the Saints for a short period of time. My dad was teammates with Jerry Rice in college, and so he was my superstar. But he and my mom divorced when I was 2 years old, and just didn't have a consistent relationship. And so when I uh, had kids, I said, I'm going to be better than that. And I want to give my kids everything that I have, because if you don't have money, which money is not the root of why we do what we do, what do you leave your kids with? Well, it's lessons, it's teaching them how to be better people, and it's leading by example. And that's what I focus on. And I don't care if it's early in the morning. Like Caden had this deal where he wanted to get up early in the morning and start working out one time. So I'm like, this guy going crazy. And then now he's in this thing where he wants to go hit baseball at 9 o'clock at night. So we're coming in the house at 11 o'clock at night now, after a full day's work, because that's kind of how he's feeling. But Amari and everything that he had when he was growing up, just supporting him. He didn't grow up in my house. He grew up in Knoxville, and I was moving around coaching. But just that father figure every day, communicating. Every morning when I wake up, I send them Bible devotions to read along with their friends, and to just open up discussion. So I just felt like I don't see it as a job. I just see it as that's what I signed up for, to be your dad. And I want that to be harder than my job, because it should be, because that's the legacy you leave. At some point, they're going to forget about me playing at Tennessee and what I did on the football field. But hopefully my grandkids are representative of our family, and great grandkids one day, and I'm around to see it.
Well, you certainly have done a great job. Those kids have an incredible work ethic and are very unselfish teammates and love to contribute to their team, and don't need to be a star. They want to be a contributor, and that all comes from great parenting. But let's. And a lot of this goes back to where you started in Mobile. So, what does it mean to you today, in this event, to have the opportunity to share your story and encourage others who are watching this to support the Boys and Girls Clubs?
I just want people to know that you are saving lives and you're helping lives. And the spectrum of help is vast. Some kids just need a little push in the back. They may have mom and dad, they may have a stable situation at home, like some of my friends did, and it can go all the way down to them not having anyone at home, and the people at the Boys and Girls Club being their family and being their extended family. I had coaches that picked me up, threw me in the back of a pickup truck, and took me back and forth to practice. I had a coach that couldn't go that far, would drop me off at a bus stop at the mall, and then my mom would come pick me up from the mall and take me. But your contributions, I'll tell you this. I remember Charles Barkley spoke at a steak and burger dinner at the Boys Club when I was a little kid, and I had known about him kinda when he was at Auburn, but he was the big NBA player at that time, and it just left an impression on my mind because he was so cool. I mean, he hung out with us, and after he got done speaking, and then we had a Christmas event where each one of us, Santa Claus came and they gave us $20, for Christmas. And for some of us, that was the only money we had to buy Christmas gifts with. And so your contributions help out so much. We talked about arts and crafts earlier. The field trips, that's another time. I remember having a blast, man, going to the swimming pool, going on different field trips, and then just equipment. I saw the contributions help when the first year I was at the club. We had to share gloves, we had to share bats, we had to share hats, and then the next year we got a donation, and we all had new uniforms, we had our own gloves. It just gave us a sense of pride in what we had. And so just know that if you save one life, if you help one, it makes the world a better place. And so I really encourage everyone to do our part and give back as much as we can to help the cause.
Well said, T. You talk about seeing Charles Barkley. hopefully there are going to be some young boys and girls who are watching this are going to say, hey, we got to see T. Martin. We got to see T. Martin and hear his story, and it touched my life, and it told me what I can be, and that no one can tell me I can't do it, because I know I can, because T. Martin proved that I can. And he's a great example. And I hope, folks, if you're watching this, you realize that in our community, that many of our most successful leaders and business owners and coaches owe their careers to the support and guidance they receive as young people at local Boys and Girls Clubs. I mean, there are many like T. Martin. For example, former ball NFL legend and now judge Tim Irwin is a prime example. What a difference he makes in the lives of so many young people every day. And remember, he had mentorship as he was growing up at a Boys and Girls Club, and that's what's made a difference for him. So we do hope you will decide to continue or to become a difference maker for the Boys and Girls Club by giving your support. We need your support. So there'll be a web address on the screen, but if you'd like to make a donation to today's event and for this wonderful message we've gotten from T, it's www.bgcntv.org. It's www.bgcntv.org. And I want to thank you all for joining our virtual Loudon County Leadership Hall of Fame. A special thanks to our incredible speaker this evening. He is a role model, he is a mentor, a coach, but most importantly, he is a lifetime friend of the Boys and Girls Club. T. Martin. T, thank you so much for your time, my friend, and thank you for being here. I wish you the best of luck this season. And oh, by the way, go Vols.
Thank you, Doc. I really appreciate you. You're awesome as always. Friend for life. Look forward to seeing you guys at Catholic soon.
Okay, absolutely, my friend. Thanks so much. Take care. Folks, okay. Thanks for watching.
We got it.